Well, this is an extremely important and a very special episode of the Urban Debate. The idea is to bring you face to face with those people who run our cities, who plan our cities, and who solve our problems. Now, we're going to make an attempt to do this in every one of India's big cities, but we're starting with the city of Mumbai. The BMC, or the MCGM, the Greater Mumbai Municipal Corporation, has a new commissioner. A commissioner who took over less than a month and a half ago and has the entire city's hopes pinned on him right now. He's known as a man of action and someone who doesn't wait to get things done. Mr. Praveen Pardeshi is in the studio with us right now. Mr. Pardeshi, first of all, I want to thank you for having this conversation with us, because
thank you for inviting me.
We normally find that government officers are not very forthcoming when it comes to talking to the media. So I also want to tell you that to begin with, I put it out on Twitter that you were coming to the studio. We have over 200 questions for you. So we'll try and work through as many of them.
I'll try my best to answer them.
As we can. But obviously the first question that I have to ask you is the question that everyone's asking about rain readiness and flooding. And we have seen waterlogging in the last couple of weeks, since the rains began. Are we not ready? Because a lot of the people told us on the ground that because of the elections, because of campaigning, there wasn't as much work done as there should have been. Is that true?
No. All the work which was required to be done was done. But it's also equally true that with all that work and with the current state of the infrastructure, these sorts of climate change that is happening, the infrastructure cannot cater to that. Okay. For some time. So I'm saying something very specific. Generally, the June rainfall falls over 15 to 20 days, and it's 5 millimeters. 540 millimeters of rainfall fell in June, but in 2 days.
Yes.
And this is part of climate change, which predicts that rainfall averages will be maintained, but they will occur in few intense spells. Even much difficult was July, where in the first day of July, 405 mm rainfall fell. So these in 3 days, and our drainage capacity was built for a more reduced runoff rate. Runoff rate is the total amount of rainfall which falls and the part of that which runs off on streets, which needs to be taken off through the stormwater drainage. So we generally have a capacity of 25 millimeters of rainfall per hour. Now, this rainfall was more than 50 millimeters per hour. So the excess rainfall then spills out on the streets.
That was the one day. But what
for
about
3
the
days.
rest?
3 days.
Okay,
so then there is no waterlogging in the other days. I actually claim, and we can show you with the pictures, that except for those spells, all our chronic flood spots, whether it is Hindmata, Andheri, Sion, all of those were removed within that day, at most half a day. And how were they removed? That's important to know. So these were not naturally drained out. Mumbai was pumping out 2 whole lakes, which is like we know Virar Lake in Mumbai and Powai Lake. Equivalent water was being pumped out every day through this heavy duty motor pumps, because this is low lying areas and they won't drain off during high tide. So this is all a man-made infrastructure. Of course, we need to do much more, and I have some ideas on what we want to do.
I also want to ask you about clearing of the nalas, of the drains, desilting of the Mithi River.
Yes.
How much of that was done on time?
So around 8 kilometers of the total length, about 8 kilometers of Mithi River has not yet been tackled. That includes 2 very big stretches of slum dwellers. Now, even though we build alternative accommodation for slum dwellers, many activists want to take the slum dwellers to a specific place and not where we have the transit houses. So that's an issue which we are trying to resolve. Though we have surplus housing for them, but they don't want them to go because this place is slightly distant. So the areas constricted by slums has not been widened in Mithi River. Then there are 2 pumping stations. You see, the pumping stations for Mumbai are unique. They not only pump out the fresh water, but they need to have a gate. What the gate does is the gate keeps the sea tidal water out. Otherwise, pumping becomes irrelevant. Even on 1st July, when the rainfall was happening, we had neap tide, the highest tide. So whatever water is supposed to flow out from Mithi River, it gets blocked by the inward flow of the high tide. So at that time, what do? All our pumping stations, we put a gate which blocks the sea water from coming in, and then we pump this water from on top of the high tide line. So these two, we have done 5 of these pumping stations, 2 big ones, one at Mogra and the other at Mahul. These 2 could not be completed because again the land was blocked. That is, we didn't get the land for that. Now we are using Disaster Management Act to get this land.
We've actually had reporters who went out and looked at all of the nalas and the Mithi River. It doesn't look good right now. There's visuals on your screen. In fact, we looked at the Mankhud Nala. We looked at a couple of other nalas.
This is not Mithi River though.
This is not Mithi River.
Yes.
This is the Mankhud Nala.
Yeah.
And I do accept that a portion of this is in Navi Mumbai and not technically, you know,
it's not us,
it's not you, but it'll have to be a sort of combined working of the Navi Mumbai Thane municipal corporations as well. This is yours. This is Borivali Nala that we went in.
But it's not choked.
It's
not choked.
It's not choked, but it's not good either. So if you take a look at it,
it's draining off the water which is coming.
Okay, so this is not choked in your opinion. Let's also that brings us to the next topic of garbage. But before we go there, I want to show you this visual that came in this morning.
Yeah.
There is a 3-year-old child who has fallen into, we're not sure whether it's an open manhole or an open drain in the city of Mumbai. Rescue operations are underway, but there is a tremendous risk with open portions of our roads, whether they're manholes or nalas, or the risk. I think that's the hole that we can see at the corner of the screen.
Yes.
What is the status right now? Why is this happening?
Yes,
of the child.
No, so again, of course,
this is from this morning. This is live visuals.
I know. So BMC is absolutely responsible for ensuring that the manholes on the streets are kept free of. They're kept closed.
If I could just draw your attention, please, to that.
So this particular
CCTV visual of that child, and you can see that's the hole on the street that she falls into.
No, there is a proper nala.
Yes, that's
out there. And that it's not a manhole, so it's a side drain, and unfortunately the child stepped into this side drain. So
and one would assume if there was any waterlogging or flooding, then that would be a risk, because then even adults wouldn't be able to see the drain.
But this is a side drain; it's not part of the street.
What can be done? What is being done right now? Why is this happening?
We're searching out this child for one. It's very sad. The second is this particular nala is not a manhole which was left open. It's a proper nala, like you have the side drains. So it is one of those nalas.
So that's meant to be open?
Well, that patch I think needs to be closed, but I've asked our assistant commissioner to verify this.
Yes, could we just flip to the other visual where we can see the drain a little better? So these are the child's parents, obviously.
Yeah, I know, it's very sad.
You can see it's next to that electricity box, and that's the drain that we're looking at near their feet.
Yeah.
Is this okay?
No,
is this how it's supposed to be?
No, it's not supposed to be like this. So definitely that needs change, and we are inquiring into how this particular thing happened.
And for citizens right now who are watching, obviously our reporters are tracking this rescue process to bring that child out of that drain. But obviously for citizens in Mumbai, across the city, they will have corners of their own streets that look like this. What are they supposed to do at this point?
No, we are monitoring all these corners. I mean, there are not that many such spots. The way we are trying to cover them up is, firstly, we have an app which allows any citizen to put up photograph of such an open thing, and we are ensuring that these get covered. That's for one. Secondly, all our ward officers, we take a weekly update to find out wherever there are any open manholes. Now, what happens, some of them, is whenever we put manholes, it's not that the municipal corporation staff remove it. Sometimes they are made of metal, these are removed. Even the time when Dr. Amrapurkar fell in one of the open manholes, the police investigation showed that was not the municipality, but the local residents had removed that thing, and they are now, many of them were arrested. So they had removed the manhole. So this in particular, this spot where there is a covering of the drain which is not there. So again, I'm going to inquire into who actually removed that drain.
So you're saying for a citizen, if they see something like this at the corner of their road or any road, they should get in touch via the app. What is the app?
And via the Twitter, and we are assuring a response time of within 24 hours. We are ensuring that they are done.
What is the app called?
So one is My BMC. So on My BMC you can tweet, and 24/7 BMC, that is the photograph loading app where you can give specific locations. But you can go anywhere. It's very agnostic. 1916 is a telephone number.
Okay.
It's manned 24/7 by more than 100 people through hunting lines. So either you can go to 1916, you can go to, you can call them up and check out whether it's working. That's a good idea. And the second is my BMC, which is a Twitter account. And then there is this 24/7 BMC, which is a slightly complicated app where if you want to look at the work which the BMC has done, like if it claims that we have desilted this nala, all the pictures of the desilted nala are put there with GPS coordinates, and you can say as a citizen that, look, I went to this nala, this is my location, and it's actually not desilted, or actually it's open.
What's the number again? 1916?
1916. So you should get it because it has got hunting lines.
Okay. It's ringing.
Please, let's see what this.
ओके हेलो
हाँ बोला मैडम।
हाँ, मैं मेरा नाम वाली स्टूडियो, मेरा नाम की टाइम्स ग्रुप के स्टूडियो से फ़ोन कर रही हूँ। हमें ये पूछना था कि ये जो बच्ची अभी नाला में गिर गई है, क्या आपको पता है कि नाला है कि मैनहोल है?
एक मिनट, एक मिनट लाइन पे रहिए। आप कहाँ से बात कर रहे हो?
मेरा नाम स्टूडियो से बात कर रहे हैं। प्रवीण परदेसी साहब हमारे साथ हैं, तो हम बस टेस्ट कर रहे थे कि आपका हॉटलाइन वर्क काम कर रहा है कि नहीं। थैंक यू फॉर आंसरिंग। थैंक यू। Okay, so that's 1916 to the citizens of Mumbai, and you can call them. It's a disaster helpline. Sorry, 24/7. And you said there's a 24-hour
yes,
timeline of
one
response.
Person, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I think more than 50 hunting lines with equivalent number of people sitting on them all night. And all of them are connected to the ward offices, and they are also connected to 5,500 visual cameras which look after the main spots in Mumbai.
So basically the citizens can call this number about waterlogging, about open drains, about unsafe
garbage not collected,
unsafe footpaths,
dangerous trees,
yeah. Any of these things, and you'd get a response.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to ask you some of the questions that have come in. One person, this is the thinking Indian, is Joseph Freddy is the individual who said, why is it that there's only one truck sent to clear both wet and dry trash? And garbage is a huge problem. We haven't found a solution.
It's wrong.
It's wrong?
So you can call up also this
solid waste man. Complain if the six.
They don't deal with that. 1916 is a emergency response.
Okay.
But that was solid waste management. But let me explain. So, I mean, just yesterday we had a meeting of all the assistant commissioners, and we called some model societies. One of them is Marathon in Perel. But there are many societies like that. We collect all the garbage in 2 trucks.
Okay.
The first truck which comes is only for mixed wet garbage. The separated dry garbage, which basically is bottles, plastics, and comes later on in a small the separate container truck, and that doesn't go to our dumping depot. It goes to some 5 waste collection centers where we have tied up with rag pickers associations, with plastic recyclers, with various groups which buy paper, and there it gets passed off there. So, for example, in 2011 or 12 or up to 13, Municipal Corporation was collecting about 9,500 metric tons of total garbage and then pushing it into our solid waste dump. Today we only transport 7,000 metric tons. So what's happened to these 2,000 metric tons? In fact, it should have increased with population. So these 2,000 metric tons is all this dry garbage, which doesn't go now to our depot, that is the dumping grounds. It goes as used plastic for plastic pellet making, paper for paper factories, tins and glasses to glass factories. So 2,000 metric tons we have been able to withdraw.
Is it mandatory right now for all housing societies to segregate?
It is mandatory. It's mandatory, but we were not able to enforce it.
Yes.
So what we found from Marathon is that they, as a society, enforce it by putting CCTV cameras on each floor, and they notice each citizen on that floor whether he or she brings 2 different bins to be put in 2 different dry and wet separately or in one, and they find them. Now, learning from that, we are also going to provide an incentive scheme where today our property tax goes to the building as a whole. So we cannot distinguish between a family which was very diligently doing the separation versus 1 or 2 who were just putting mixed garbage. So now we are putting the property tax notices within the next 75 days, flat wise. So the building as a whole will not get its tax. Each flat owner will get a tax. But in that tax, if you are consistently not separating your, you will get a higher garbage tax, and those which are separating it will get a concession of up to 10%. So suppose you have always separating your two, and your society is giving that compliance that amongst my 50 members, these only 10 are putting the mixed thing, the rest are all putting it. So those 10 people will get a higher garbage tax to penalize them for not mixing it. So these are some ways of ensuring the enforcement of segregation.
What is the solution right now for the Deonar dump yard, which we saw caught on fire about 4 years ago now, but there hasn't been?
That is now safeguarded. Okay. Now, Kanjur Marg and other areas is where we have most of our dumping going. So that also we are converting from free dumping, which is basically you just go and throw the waste there and then it just rots or it decomposes. No. So we have now separating that into the organic part, which is being composted even now. Yes. The non-organic part, which is mixed with everything else, that part now we are going for waste to energy project, and so that only the landfill type of material, the earth and dirt, only that should remain, which can go as a landfill material, which is basically earth, stone, sweepings of the street. Yes. But anything which is going as mixed garbage, which may include some paper, some eaten food and other things like that, that can go into waste to energy.
In fact, we'll just run visuals of the other parts of the state, of the city, of the Deonar dump yard, of the other challenges that the city is facing. What should...
This picture that you're showing is good actually, because this is exactly what I told you about the dry separation. This is high value stuff. The problem with all waste is when it doesn't come segregated like these plastic bottles, it's no use. When it comes like this, it's high value because waste recyclers can collect it all in a homogeneous group, and then it goes for converting into plastic furniture.
So you're saying all of this would have gone to...
Otherwise, nobody would separate out so cleanly all the recyclables.
So what should an individual or a housing society do if they find that they're not getting 2 separate trucks to pick up their garbage, like this individual?
They can complain to solid waste management, and I will personally take this up.
How do they reach the solid waste management team?
There is a solid waste management Twitter handle which has responded very well. They can also call up on 1916. You can see SWM is there at BMC SWM. There's a Twitter account of that.
So I'm getting a lot of messages right now from people who say that the housing society segregates, but the van that comes to pick it up tends to mix it. So you're saying complain if that's the case?
Yeah, the complaint that's the case, and that's a very serious complaint. We'll look into that.
Okay. The other question that people are asking is about...
Which I could show you the visuals of the separate trucks. I mean, I can ensure that that happens, yeah.
So we'll tell our citizens that if you find, so you can do 2 things. If you find that there's only 1 truck coming and they're mixing the garbage after the building has taken the trouble to segregate, get visuals of it, of the truck number, of the location. You can send it to us. Our contact details are on your screen, either through our Twitter handle or to the Twitter handle of the BMC, and we'll make sure that it reaches the right people and that action is taken. RA Colony, again, questions are being asked about whether or not we should be chopping down those trees at this point. At a point when we really can't afford it in this city.
So on RA Mill Colony, again, you know, that's part of those issues which we were just discussing we need to raise. Because finally, the city and the citizens which live there are both responsible and also own the future and benefit from its good services, and of course suffer because if they are not there. So it's the ownership of the citizens which matters.
You know, the argument is that
it's
not the metro, it's a shed for the metro that we're building.
So let me complete, because I've been involved in the metro construction project planning from the days when I was with the Chief Minister's office, and we ran a war room to make it the fastest construction and completion of a metro which has been planned for the last 30 years but is now being put on the ground.
Yes.
So let's just forget for a few minutes about RA and see that why is Mumbai one of the most polluted cities in the world? Now, does it have less trees or more trees than, let's say, a city of some equivalent number of people like London? It doesn't have as many trees. Mumbai has many more trees than London has. Simply because of the 104 square kilometers Sanjay Gandhi National Park and 60 square kilometers of mangroves.
Yes.
So it has a much bigger green area than any of these large cities. We are fortunate to have that.
Yes.
But it still becomes the most polluted city, much more than London. Why? Because everybody uses their personal cars to go from their place of work to home and to other places. While the same people with the same levels of affluence in London use public transport.
Okay.
Now, public transport requires one thing. It requires predictability and timeliness. When the streets are congested, then it's very difficult to ensure timeliness of buses. So, dedicated line like a metro or an underground ensures predictability of timing. Now, what is the connection between a metro and trees? So, we want trees because they contribute oxygen and they reduce the carbon dioxide. Every car that travels with 1 or 2 passengers individually versus the same number of people traveling in a train, the CO2 emissions are reduced by roughly 1/3 to 1/4. So, if all the people who use cars today in Mumbai, if all of them were to travel in metro, trees or no trees, Mumbai would be the cleanest city. Your oxygen would be as fresh as, I'm saying this with a lot of responsibility. So, today Mumbai is polluted only and only because the number of cars being on the street per person is far higher. Only way, and we can't tell anybody, a professional, to say, oh, don't use cars. They need timely service to go from their place of work to their homes and back. Metro provides that. So, this particular metro, which is planned, is stated to take 15% of the private car owners.
I'm not arguing the metro. I'm arguing the shed for the metro. Why does the shed need to be in the
car? It's a car shed. You can't. See, how does the metro run? After the metro goes back and forth, when you have to change from one line to the next, the cars have to be put, otherwise that line is blocked. See, being a linear line, unless the cars are put off one line, they firstly cannot go to another line, and on that line the second train cannot go. So, for these changeovers, they need something called a car shed. So, car shed is not like a storage place. Car shed is what happens if you go to the suburban trains, when the train comes to an end. Suppose that train sticks to that place, then you will not have the second train.
There were alternatives in Kalina, there were alternatives.
We have explored all the alternatives. There is one alternative which was very far away, where not only would the train timings be out of turn, but worse, that is in Supreme Court on litigation, because the owner of that land is not willing to go. So, here is a case where we are not using our public land, which is not a forest, and asking somebody's private land which is in a dispute in Supreme Court. If we get that, we could still use that. But the amount of clean air that a metro ensures is much more than the loss of the trees. So this is the trade-off.
Yes, okay, I understand the trade-off. So let me ask you this. Would you argue when I say that most of the infrastructure, other than the metro, that has come to Mumbai, if we consider the Eastern Freeway, if we consider the Bandra-Worli Sea Link, all of the bridges that are coming in, the Bandra-Worli Sea Link, for example, doesn't allow buses. It is meant purely to encourage people to buy private cars and to drive private cars.
I agree with that.
And instead of pushing the quality of our buses, the routes of our buses, we have dropped the fare. But we should be adding more buses. We should be changing the routes to go to BKC instead of Navi Mumbai. There's so much that we can do with the best system that we're not doing.
No, I'm really excited with this sets of issues, because these are all win-win. But first, going back to the thing that the investment, it's true, how a city invests its public resources also decides the transport mix it gets. So, if we invest heavily on roads which are not amenable to bus, then we are forcing people to go on private cars. So, we can't blame anybody.
Isn't the coastal road again in that same line?
No, I'm coming to that. So, the coastal road will be having through bus lanes continuously. That's why it's made so widely. So, that's the first thing. Henceforth, almost all the main roads we are providing dedicated lanes for the buses. There is some resistance to that, but we are trying to push that through. Going back to the best, pulling the rates down has already ensured that 7 lakh more passengers have travelled in the last 2 days. So, that's great. But that's not enough, as you rightly say, because without predictability of timing and timeliness, it doesn't work. So, we have 3,500 buses. We need 6,000 to really saturate the streets with public transport available on call. You know, it should be like an escalator. You step in, step out, there's a bus waiting for you.
Like what London does.
So, we need 3,000 more buses. But because BEST is making a loss, it's an accumulated loss of 1,200 crores.
But bus
let
is
me
a
complete this
service.
point.
It's not a conglomerate that's to make a profit.
No. I'm the first one to agree to that. But we need to build a proper economic case so that it becomes viable forever. It's not a one-off. I was just coming to it. Has a loss of 1,200 crores right now accumulated. So what the BMC has done, it's an undertaking of BMC. BMC is going to write off the entire loss. It has started already giving 200 crores in the first month and every month 100 crores. But what we told them is to take a small, hard decision. What is the hard decision? All the buses which were being added to the fleet so far were purchased by the corporation, and it used to have 2 staff, one a driver, one a contractor, again on our salaries. And you know, our salary structures, because of various factors, I don't want to mention them, are very high. So we said incremental bus growth will happen through wet leasing. That is, there will be privately owned buses running to our schedule, running under our fee structure, but with a private driver. And they will be paid through GPS tracking, having completed the mileages. So this is becoming like the Air India, Jet Airways or Indigo model.
You know, Air India model is a really scary model because it has not worked out.
But we can't get out of the Air India because we have best already. So what we are trying to do is to get a mix at least of some public sector and some private sector as a competition, but under our fair regulation.
You do agree.
So let me come. So we've reached 6,000 buses by the end of this year. Then
how many of them will be electric, air conditioned?
Yeah, so about
Volvo, your latest
400,
quality.
400 of them are electrical buses. About 1,000 are CNG buses. The rest are normal. Half of these buses are not large buses; they are mini buses. Why are we going for
normal
mini
is diesel?
Yes, there will be some diesel because we are not able to ramp up from 3,000 to 6,000 in 4 months if we take all electrical or if we take all CNG buses. So we are going for a mix because my aim is to reach 6,000 by December end. Once we reach 6,000, then each bus has an ITMS system. And that I'm not just saying for the sake. Everything that I say is happening right now. Even now you can go on your telephone and see the best application, but it's being revamped much better so that the display of the timing and the delay or on timeliness is being both coming at the on the bus itself and on the bus stop. There are 200 bus stops which by August end will be displaying the coming bus, whether it's late or on time. But even better, forget about the display on the bus. If you sit in a bus and you have your phone and you have downloaded my best application, you can query this number, how late it is. It will tell you because of its GPS connectivity, all the buses now are on GPS, it's delayed by 10 minutes or it's coming on time. And how long it's going to take to my next bus stop, even that query it answers. So if you have, it's a stop 10 away, it's calculating the traffic. So all of this in next 4 to 5 months is definitely happening.
Are you re-looking at the routes? Now I want to give you an example. Nariman Point, Churchgate, Cuff Parade used to be the area where people would get off the trains either at VT or Churchgate to take the bus to their offices or take a shared taxi to their offices. That has entirely moved to 2 different locations. Lower Parel, where we are right now, and I'm sure you've experienced the traffic when you came into this studio as well, and BKC. There needs to be a relook at the routes completely. Because this is now where the feeder service needs to be.
Absolutely
it no longer needs to be in Nariman Point. Are you looking at, for example, the Elphinstone Parel to Lower Parel route?
Yes, so you hit the nail on the head. Buses were the sole mode of transport previously, other than the suburban trains. Now we are getting metro. And with metro and a revamped suburban, long range distances for buses are not going to be viable.
Yes.
But feeder service from bus stops to the railway stations. This is the real thing. That's why we're going for mini buses. Half the new buses are mini buses because we want them to go as short distance feeder service, and they're all going to be air conditioned. So all the new 400 buses which are coming in by August are air conditioned. The subsequent 1,500 buses are going to be air conditioned.
In fact, one of the, apparently, my colleague has told me the route number 167, which is the route from Elphinstone Station to Mahindra Towers, is what most office goers use, but it's not functioning properly because the roads are really bad and that area is chock-a-block with traffic. And so many of my colleagues.
So you have to help us with the parking issues. You know, a lot of people come heavily on us, but if it's chock-a-block by moving vehicles, we still accept it. But if you see right now, at least one lane on each side is blocked by people parking their vehicles because they feel it's their right to park on public streets.
So you've just levied a 10,000 rupee fine. Have you had success?
Yes, we have had a lot of success on that. Many streets, I mean, Mirror put out a story just a few days back showing the state before and after.
Yes.
So, you know, though this is causing hardship to some people, let's just think a little bit about this issue, that the street is not a private property, but a car is a private property.
Yes.
We need to look after our own private property with our own places, or whether the office or the hotel, they have to provide wherever MCGM can do it through regulations, through forcing developers to add new parking, we can do it, but we can't invest in them because all citizens are not car owners.
I must also ask you about the Western Suburbs.
Yeah.
It's a complete and utter nightmare at this point to drive in and out of the Western Suburbs to any other part of the city. The only happy people right now are the ones who live in Andheri West and work in Andheri West and don't have to ever leave there. But a combination of the metro construction and the dug up roads and the bad drainage and the rain and the Western Express Highway is beyond capacity. Do you have solutions at this point? What are the solutions?
You know it. You said it in your answer. The dug up roads, the metro construction. The only reason why all that pain is being felt now is in 2 years from now or 3 years from now, when you have the metro network in place. I don't think you or anyone sitting there is not going to take a metro line which will come out here within 35 to 40 minutes, half your car time in air conditioned comfort. And so this is
it 2 years or 3 years? You said 2 years or 3 years.
It all depends because there are 4 or 5 lines coming. The first metros should be completed by 2022. Some metro will start functioning. Some small stretches will start functioning by end of this year. And from end of this year till 2022, all the around 350 kilometers of metro line, which makes Mumbai completely saturated with the trunk routes having a metro line, would happen by 2022.
Okay.
This trouble that you're facing is part of this problem of changing.
Is the monorail a failure at this point?
No, now it has reached Chembur.
But nobody takes it.
No, because the
I
frequency
see
is
it it's going up and down like an empty lift,
Yes.
but there's nobody in it.
You're right. So the main thing for that is it doesn't work like an escalator, continuous. It's got half an hour frequency. So just yesterday, our Chief Minister, Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, took a decision to make it at 15 minutes to 10-minute frequency, which requires additional cars, which also he approved. So with these new cars and a new frequency of about 10 to 12 minutes, then it becomes like an escalator. People coming from Chembur all the way to Warsaw, they can come on that. No, it's from Chembur to Parel, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
To Jacob Circle.
Yeah. So now it's been extended up to Chembur.
Okay, there is, and a couple of other questions that I want to ask that are fairly close, personal to me, actually. One of which is the mangroves. We've been tracking, and you said yourself, the reason why Mumbai has more trees than London is, while they have Hyde Park, we have the mangroves.
Yes.
But we've brought out stories on this channel of, mangroves, and you can see the visuals on your screen.
Yeah.
Any of these screens if you want, and you can see that there are dump trucks going into those mangroves, and they're basically covering up the salt pans. They're actually turning them into just dust bowls. And this is happening on a regular basis. We have visuals of it that we can give to you. And it is obvious and it is known that every time
this particular area is good. It's got ducks, it's got storks,
it won't have them for much longer. We'll just show you the visuals from Apeksha's story from February this year. Where basically and this was reported widely, even our colleagues at the Mumbai Mirror.
I agree. Those are cormorants.
Yes, and when it does happen, the city floods, and we've seen enough flooding take place.
Yes.
What are we doing to protect the mangroves? I mean, there are no ducks here, and this should not.
We don't know whether it's a mangrove or it's a street, so we need to be a bit reserved on the judgment. But I am taking your basic issue that there is a lot of debris being pulled or pushed onto mangrove areas, and we need to stop that. So we are working on that. Firstly, in the development plan, all mangroves have been classified as no development zone, and there's a 50-meter buffer zone between the mangrove line and landward where no development can take place. So this is regulatory wise, we are firm. The High Court is very firm. Even if you have to cut 2 mangrove trees for a development project, you have to take a prior permission of High Court. So this is the law. Now, breach of the law is an issue, that people doing it informally. Last night, few nights before, we found a truck which had put the debris. We located through CCTV cameras, and after 2 days found this. We are now ensuring that there will be public pathways around all the mangroves. What that will do is, that will ensure that the local public have ownership. Just like if you walk on Warsaw Beach or on Juhu Beach, you won't allow anybody to litter there because local people have ownership for the
pride,
beach.
yes.
But the same ownership we need to put for mangroves by having a public pathway with the informative checklist of which species it is, what they get to see there, all along the boundary of the mangroves, so that nobody can come at night or during daytime and put debris on that.
Okay, I also want to ask you about the Brimstone project, which is the drainage project, which was started ages ago but not completed. What is the status right now?
So the Brimstone project aimed to complete the expansion of stormwater drainage from 25 millimeters per hour discharge capacity to 50 millimeters. So out of the roughly 50 large drains, 20 are still not fully completed. These 20 not being completed, there are a lot of interventions by public interest litigation people in courts which have blocked it. The biggest example is the Hind Mata. Hind Mata would have been completed 2 years ago, but for a court stay where some people are blocking the work through a court stay. But anyway, we are getting that resolved. So this year that will be completed. Then the second component of Brimstone Ward was getting 7 heavy duty pumping stations with gates to block the seawater. So this part of the work has now been completed in 5, like Love Grove Station or the Gasdar. These have been completed. Mahul and Mogra have not been completed, and Mahul not being completed was also a problem for the Central Railway, which was the one line which was blocked while Western could continue. So there the land is all salt pan and we could not get that land. But anyway, now we issued an order under Disaster Management Act to appropriate that land. So we hope that we can complete this work.
The other question is rainwater harvesting. You just talked about how you've pumped 2 lakes worth of water into the sea. Is there something we can do to not lose that water? Because we wind up with water cuts later in the year.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's like the way to go for the city. Of course, everything comes with a trade-off. So I'm using your channel also to put these trade-offs before people, because finally people have to decide. We just take decisions based on then overall, policy consensus which people and the representatives, the BMC representatives come to on. So where can we store the water? You and I know that Mumbai is fully built up, so there is no places now for open reservoirs. I mean, the lakes are full wherever they are there. And so how has Japan solved this problem? Japan has the same problem. So Japan has put massive underground reservoirs, and their whole rivers. So whichever river, Edo River flows through Tokyo, but Edo River floods as frequently as Mumbai floods. What they have done with it is, because they are as built up as us, they have taken the entire Edo River surplus flow underground by an equally big channel which goes below the Tokyo city. And then where does the water go? They can't put it all in the sea because it's below the level. So they have made a reservoir, huge reservoir, underground reservoir.
What's the trade-off?
So the trade-off is, if I try to build underground reservoirs below race course, below your garden, you have activists which are saying, no, we don't want anything to be built even under our even under our greenery. So we have to understand where do we do this. When we were talking about congested streets and we said we'll build metro, so no, we don't want rain trees to be cut in array. So as a city, we have to take the big. I mean, it's true that there will be some problems, but we get a better outcome out of it, that we can store all the water and we won't have to pump drinking water or at least toilet wastewater all the way from Vaitarna, which is more than 60 kilometers away.
I also want to ask you about the bridges. There were reports, about bridges that are unsafe in the city, which you have closed, which we raised previously because they were not closed and that was a problem. You have now closed them. What is being done about, and there are grades of safe to use, needs fixing and needs to be closed. So what is the status of the ones that need to be fixed?
All the bridges which need to be repaired, which don't need to be closed, the tenders and work orders for repairing them have been issued, but about 29 bridges needed to be closed. They have been shut down. 2 which have caused the maximum pain. One is the Ghatkopar bridge, one is the Juhu Tara bridge. Both of them I've gone and seen. We contacted IIT and VGTI, 2 leading structural engineering institutions. For both of them, we have got a retrofitting solution, that is allowing the bridge to remain as it is. At the Ghatkopar bridge, we have put huge steel sheets on a Y section, which prevents the load of the bridge from going on the weakened members of the current bridge.
Yes.
And that work is in place, and this Saturday that bridge is reopening. For the Juhu Tara bridge, a different solution was put in place, which is to make a layer of concrete lie above the current bridge. So that also work has started, and that also will be opened this week. But what do we do for the 29 bridges? Because these are all interim solutions. So we did a bit of research and found that there are companies across the world which can build such bridges in 2 to 3 months, some of them in 4 months. But obviously they cost more. And if we
we don't have a lack of funds at the BMC.
So good that you answered me. So that's where
Yes.
my solution is going. So, but we have the CAG guidelines, which says that we have to give to the lowest bidder.
Okay.
So we have to find a way out of this. The way we have done this is which can be delivered in 4 months. That's our tender condition. And people always bid, say we will do it in 4 months, but they know they can't do it, and then they know they will get paid after 6 months or 8 months.
Yes.
So what we have done is anybody who bids for this, unless they put 10% of security deposit of the cost of that bridge upfront with BMC, which will be all deducted if the person doesn't complete the bridge in 4 months, then he cannot. So a non-serious or a bridge builder who can build a bridge, but he knows that he can find a way out even if he gets delayed by 7 months, such a person can't come in. And if he does come in, we'll give him the work, but then we will penalize him. So we are getting the best technologies on this.
Yes, there's a question that's coming from Anil Hebar, who says, have you begun work on the coastal road by reclaiming land without proper studies and clearances? And who is responsible for the coastal road right now?
So Mumbai Municipal Corporation is responsible for it. It's a 25-year-old project which has been debated and has been put in 2 development plans of this city. And you know that a development plan, once you put it down for suggestions, objections, gets more than 100,000 objections, suggestions. After crossing all that process, it has been put not just in the current DP, but in the previous DP also.
Yes.
Then it was approved by the Government of India through the coastal zone regulation.
Yes.
That coastal zone regulation got more than 60,000 suggestions, objections. After hearing them, a final decision was taken to build this. But let's go back to the current status of this coastal zone. The world over, whether it is Netherlands, whether it is Dubai, whether it's Singapore, now all these people go to these countries. All of them are on landfill. If the sea is common, the sea which touches India also touches Dubai. And through the Indian Ocean and Atlantic Ocean, it also touches Netherlands.
Yes.
Just think about this studio, and if somebody, if this is our sea level at this table, and if somebody out there starts filling up their part of this sea, will not the water rise up here? So all the other countries are doing landfill at much higher rate. Whole countries are being built, whole cities are being built by landfill in Dubai. Now that water is going to come up the coast of Mumbai. So India will not be very wise if India doesn't allow infrastructure reclamation of sea, because then the seawater will ingress into India much more than because of the landfill activities of other countries. So wherever infrastructure is needed, all countries from Netherlands to Dubai to Singapore, every country advises that you should do wisely with ecological care landfill activities. That's one. I'm just saying something else.
Water levels are rising because of global warming anyway. We shouldn't be...
But all the more reason why we need to safeguard our height by, if there is an area which we need to build up, we can do a landfill in the sea by protecting the biodiversity. There are new materials called eco-concrete, which Israel has been using. Today in the sea, if you put dead concrete, it doesn't allow fish, corals, anything to grow. Now this eco-concrete provides small noves in all the concreting work, which we have added as a component of our bridge, which will increase the corals and breeding fish along the side of the coastal road, because the world over, small sea fish need coastal areas to breed, and the best breeding areas are on the creek side.
Since we're talking about the ocean, it's also true that Mumbai is perhaps the only great city in the world that's pumping sewage directly into the ocean. There isn't any other big city that would do this.
Other Indian cities do.
Yes,
Mumbai
but
is
we're
one of the Indian
responsible
cities
for the one that we're living in.
I agree with you. It's not a good thing.
It's certainly not a good thing. What is
So
our
I'll tell you on
solution?
this. This is something about which I'm most passionate about, because I love swimming. And we all go to other countries and see their sea to be blue. Why go outside? If you go to Andamans in India, the sea is crystal blue. I aim for a 3-year period where Mumbai sea will be blue like that. The only function of that is 2,500 million liters per day of sewage needs to be treated to 10 BOD standard. We have already finalized the project. We have issued the work orders for one plant. For the other plants in the next few weeks, we are issuing 2,500 million liters of sewage which goes raw in the sea. In the next 3 years will become crystal clear water.
What do you need the citizens to do to help?
Nothing. On this, nothing. But there was, again, for all good things, this particular project was blocked by first NGT, and then of course we had to go to High Court to get the stay order vacated, because what standards we put, some people for their own purposes said no, they should be even faster. But today we are not treating any water that was acceptable for 60 years. But when we said we'll treat it to 30 BOD, which is slightly less treated than 10 BOD. 10 BOD is even more purer.
Yeah.
So some people who had other technologies said that no, we should go for 10, and that cost us another year. In every project in Mumbai, there is a lot of public interest litigation, because like watching a film, you watch only a part of it, you don't understand the front part, the red part, and it seems true. So the whole story has to be...
Are you willing to have, or are you open to having conversations with activists on all of these?
We are having, for example, we had a big meeting with the tree group, including Zori was there.
82,000 objections to cutting the trees in RA.
Yes. So we had a whole hearing for all of them.
Okay.
And without responding to those objections, no decision will be taken. Decision will be taken only after considering each and every objection.
Have you managed to get the road scam and the
Those
problems
people have been
with
punished
making,
during my predecessor's time, yeah.
Going forward?
Yeah.
Will you be able to make sure that we have pothole-free roads or safe roads? Where people
well,
don't lose their lives because of the quality
definitely
of
we can do that. But about the potholes, there is one more issue which again requires a big structural solution, that all the pipelines and utilities which are below the main roads, they need to be shifted on the sides.
Yes.
So that they can be repaired without breaking open the road. And that again requires stopping many roads, traffic congestion. So this is a slow process. What we have decided now is that wherever there are frequent potholes, and these are happening because of reworking the road, there we will shift out all the utilities and ensure that the main road is either concretized or mastic.
So in some cases it's because of digging up or trenching. In some other cases it's just interlocking that has been used, which is obviously not a foolproof system, which comes apart with a little bit of rain.
Well, so very interesting about interlocking. So why do you use interlocking? You use interlocking because interlocking, unlike asphalt, unlike concrete also, has uneven settlement. So it allows water to seep through. So you use interlocking blocks as a means of where waterlogging always occurs, and where if you use mastic asphalt or tar, it will always lead to potholes. But though the riding quality is not so good in the interlocking blocks, it allows water to stay without the road to be broken up. So it's a mix. Ultimately, the best solution is we should neither have interlocking blocks nor this, but allow such good drainage that all the drainage is taken
all
away.
The water runs
so for which what I was saying, we need the stormwater drainage very nicely with full capacity to be on the sides. But when we can't do that immediately, then we have to use interlocking blocks for such patches.
I must ask you, Mr. Pardeshi, about the people in Mahul. We've spent a lot of time there. My team has visited.
I know.
We've gone there. I know that you made a visit as well. We've gone from house to house, and there is one person sick in every house. I will be more than happy to visit again with you and take you to the houses that we have been to and actually talk about what is going on. Nowhere else in the world do human beings live within 400 meters of a refinery and chemical factories.
There is a village called Mahul which is touching which is the same place.
Yes, but at that time the Aegis chemical containers were not there. The village has been there for a very long time. But a lot of the containers are new. In fact, there was a closed down notice put on those containers by the pollution department. They've now opened up again. There is a severe problem in Mahul.
Of course, we cannot allow any...
Is there a solution that you are looking at? There are two parts to this.
Definitely, we can't allow any pollution type of atmosphere to put people there. So that's a given. Even the Honorable Supreme Court has said that the Central Pollution Control Board is now monitoring the pollution level there, and if it is in any realm of whatever is prescribed as not habitable, definitely we will not allow anybody to stay there. But right now the Central Pollution Control Board has not said that. But apart from that, there is a bigger human issue. See, we had people who who
No,
were
but
living on the...
if I would stop you for just 1 second to just look at the visuals on your screen.
Yeah. Sorry.
You can see it. You can see it here. There's a
Yeah,
television,
yeah,
and
yeah.
these are children who live in Mahul.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are sick. Almost all of them are underweight and stunted. They have
But
huge
they have moved
skin
into Mahul
problems.
for just a few months back.
2 years ago.
Not all.
This is the
Some of them
Tansa
are just-
pipeline people who moved in.
Yeah, but so I will come to Tansa pipeline. So right now they were living on Tansa pipeline, which was not only threatening Mumbai's water supply, but they...
No, I'm not arguing your evacuation of Tansa pipeline. I'm arguing you're moving them
Yes,
to
so
Mahul.
I'm coming to where they were living. Their conditions were also very bad. They also had no sewage. They didn't have access to toilets. They didn't have access to running water. And here they have proper running water, which is potable water. They have toilets. I have myself asked without going around. Everybody said our water is perfect. We have toilets which are not leaking.
I will make another trip personally
Yeah, I'll
with
make
you.
with you. But we'll without a press. And definitely, if any of this illnesses is being caused by the local thing, we will take corrective steps.
There is a report from KEM that says so. We will bring you reports from the local doctors.
We will address those issues.
People are largely suffering from kidney failure, from asthma and TB in this place.
We will address these issues for
So,
sure.
and personally, I believe that every day, and right now, the state government has taken them to Supreme Court. These are obviously people from a slum. They cannot fly to Delhi to fight against the state government in Supreme Court. It is a...
They are not always fighting. There are pro bono activists who are fighting for them.
Well, that still doesn't, I mean, morally, how can the state government or the BMC that has the kind of resources that you have appeal against these people in Supreme Court?
So, the option is very bad. For example, anybody who is moved out now, we have maximum, we didn't build these were part of the development plan.
Okay.
These 5,000 PAP tenements have been built here. They have running water, they have a sewage system, they have access, they have a bus service. Now we come to the fact that, let's say we don't want to put them there. That's also a good thing. Where are the other tenements? There are no other tenements. The option is they have to go back to living in the worst of slums. So that is something which we don't want.
So these people are actually right now sitting on the footpath, saying that they would rather sit on the footpath than live in
But there are
Mahul.
more than 2,500 families living there.
Let's, Mr. Pardeshi, visit together.
Yeah, we'll visit.
You and I will visit together.
We'll do that. And we'll visit it without the cameras. We'll visit it anonymously, and then we'll come to a conclusion.
Done. We will visit together and come to a conclusion, because this is something I believe,
I agree with you.
as a citizen of Mumbai, we should not be able to sleep at night if this is what we are doing to our fellow citizens. I also want to quickly ask you about, you know, the other long-term plans you have for the city. We talked about several of the things that you're considering. One of the things that people asked us on Twitter is about footpaths. We have a challenge of footpaths because footpaths are all taken up either by the shops or people who are selling vegetables or something or the other. This is not a walking city, although it could be. Where is the solution? What is the solution you're considering?
That's something which we have to work a lot more on. So we have this new policy on the hawkers policy. So just a few days back, I took, after a long time, this meeting had not taken. It's called the Town Vending Committee. Commissioner is the chairman of that. So after serving more than 80,000 hawkers and 80,000 locations which they had applied for, as per the Government of India's new act, which says that yes, hawking can be allowed where people want street food or street, and it's also means of livelihood for poor people, but see to it that it's not on both sides of the road, see to it that it doesn't block the footpath completely, it doesn't block the congested part like chowks, etc. So these are some of the guidelines, and then the space occupied by per is constricted to a specific area. So 19,000 of them we found to be valid, and we have allowed them licenses. The rest are not valid anymore. They can of course appeal and check that out. Other than that, we also have a walkability coefficient for the footpaths, because many footpaths have too many indentations, that is, up and down steps, which make a person easier to walk on the side of the road than to walk on a footpath.
Especially senior citizens have a lot of trouble with our footpaths.
So we are working on, we have set up something called the non-motorized transport cell, because non-motorized is out of mind. So we have to have a dedicated facility to look at footpath people and cyclists, both humble, causing no environmental loss, and yet being the most harmed.
So BKC had a cyclist
but it doesn't go from anywhere to anywhere.
And it's now being used for parking.
I'm a cyclist, so cyclists can use the city if the roads or the cycle tracks connect proper destinations. it's not a fun thing. So suppose I live, let's say, in wherever. Every morning I've been on cycle from Mount Altamont Road to Andheri to Warsaw, but I can do it only early morning. Can't do it in the daytime because it's so congested and people don't respect cyclists. They can just knock you out.
Yeah.
So to make it cycle friendly city or walking friendly, we have to have dedicated trails which are end to end. That is, they need to go up to a destination. They can't be just middle of just a part. It doesn't serve any purpose. So that's a big ask. For footpaths, definitely we can do it much better because there are footpaths, but they are structurally not good. So there are places where we need the walkability to be improved, obstructions that we are going to do. And
well, I will tell you something, that this city has a great number of people. I know that the government likes to call them activists, but it has a great number of people who care very deeply about the city. We want this to be...
They are the only people who really have full ownership for this city.
Yes, we want it to be the world-class city that it can be. We want every single citizen of the city to have a quality of life that we can currently afford given the taxes that we pay. We want to be able to work with the government of the city in order to improve and work. And we both know that unless citizen and government work together, none of the plans you talked about are actually possible.
Absolutely.
So, what would you like the citizens to do? How do they get in touch with you? How do they work with you?
I think on this one, though, the corporation has to do a lot more than what it has been doing. There are just some suggestions which I'm actually put in practice, which of course we need to do more. Only then citizens can respond. See, the one basic problem is most activists, they have so much to contribute and such brilliant ideas. None of those ideas are part of the corporation's
plans,
routine thinking.
Yes.
And they give such lateral new ideas which can transform situations. So that's there. Now we don't give them a institutional, structural entry point.
Yes.
To give them quietly, calmly, and get them adopted. So this is the big challenge, and I've understood it in this way. I look at it institutionally. I don't look at one activist. I look at it in an institutional manner. So what have I done, and what we are planning to do in any case? So first is this ALMs, this area the local area committees of citizens. So already I've issued a circular. These meetings have to be held every month. I'm monitoring those meetings. For example, there is one ALM member called Mr. Jayant from this marathon society who ensures that the waste is recycled. I got him to all our assistant commissioners meeting, and he sat for 6 to 7 hours, and we are using his model of his society to be propagated to all other societies. Then there is a group which works with all the trees and manages the oval ground. So then she was called for our meeting of plantation, and we are taking them fully on board for getting the species. There is one gentleman who works on the Human Rights Council, who works on tree, Rajhans his name. So he gave me a list of species which are native to Mumbai, and those we should use and not plant eucalyptus or even rain tree, for example. Rain tree is one of the trees whom your RA people are fighting to save, by the way. But anyway, so we are going to only plant indigenous trees, and we have issued their advisory as a circular. But we need to do more, which is to give a format where citizens' suggestions and actions get an entry point. So first is ALM committees, that's the institutionalized. Second, I've said we'll have citizens' budgets from the next time onwards. That is, before a ward budget is finalized, they should consult these ALM and other citizens groups, get suggestions, and at least 10 to 15% of these suggestions should be actually put in the budget. Because why people feel frustrated, say, ये तो इतना आसान था, यहाँ पर एक bridge बना देना था, क्यों नहीं बना रहे? But if it is done in the middle of the budget cycle, then there is no scope. But let's do it at the beginning of the budget cycle, because then it can be factored in. So that's the second thing, it's called citizens budgeting. The third thing is treating each department, whether it is the tree plantation department, drainage department, the garden department, water supply department, as not consisting of only the government officers, municipal officers, and the municipal councillors. For each department, I have said, anybody who is a so-called citizen expert and is passionate, you treat them as a member of your department. So today we have 3 working committees. One working committee is on bridges. Sucheta Dalal, I don't know whether you know, she brought Shrish Patel and 2 or 3 other bridge experts. They are all very old and experts. I've already made them advisory committee in all our files on bridges in terms of these new designs. Go to them, they look at it, they give us suggestions, and we are going forward.
Can we put forward recommendations of people who have worked with us in the past who might be... There are activists who have entire restructuring plans for the best at zero cost to the government.
But those people we are including already. I already had a meeting with Ashok Datar, and most of the suggestions, this idea of reducing the fees from 8 to 5 didn't come from my head. It's they who suggested to me that the capacity was 50% being utilized. See, I wouldn't have reduced the fees if they hadn't told me one fact, which is today your best with limited buses is still running at 50% capacity.
It's not full capacity.
Then immediately we said, yes, we should reduce the rates to utilize the capacity fully.
Mr. Pardeshi, we've run out of time, but I hope that this is the beginning of many more conversations we can have, many more projects that we can work together. On Mirror Now, it is our interest that the city be improved for the citizens, and whatever communication you need us to pass on to the citizens, we're here to help you.
Thanks.
And we hope that we can continue to have these chats and be able to communicate with the citizens the plans that the BMC is doing and bring to you questions and challenges that citizens are facing. We will continue, of course, and remember, you're putting it up on your screen. There is an app called My BMC. You can get in touch with the BMC. 1916 is the emergency disaster helpline in case you have waterlogging, you have a problem with your roads, you have a manhole that is open or a drain that is open that you believe is dangerous. Please immediately get in touch. And if you have any other challenges and you want to get in touch with us, our contact details are on your screen as well. Let's work towards making each of our cities, remember, it's planning at the end of the day, each of our cities, the cities with the kind of lifestyle that we can afford and we can give to every citizen. Thanks for watching.